Ladies and gentlemen, what you're witnessing here is the emergence of subterranean termites. This is a phenomenon that occurs once a year when the conditions are just right. And what they do is they emerge from their underground city. There's a reason why these termites have not suffered the same fate as the bees. And that is because the assault on these winged insects that have antennae by the wireless infrastructure does not penetrate the ground as well as it does the air. What they do is they look for a place to go eat. You know, this is really a miraculous thing here, folks, watching this. They have a vast network under the ground of tunnels. You see, folks, in order for us to survive the coming attack from the wireless proliferation, the microwave proliferation, we're going to have to do the same thing. Now, I'm not saying we have to go live under the ground, but in order for us to continue to survive as a species, we have to protect our reproductive capabilities. And that is accomplished by avoiding the weaponry that is being deployed all around us. It's a widely known fact that iron is one of the most common substances in the soil. It's what gives the red brick its color. It is a known microwave absorber, and it basically blocks microwave radiation. And that's why they put carbonyl iron paint on the stealth bomber, because instead of reflecting back the microwave signal, it absorbs it. Now, at the same time, it doesn't allow it to penetrate. These creatures that live in the ground, these winged insects that are birthed under the soil, haven't really seen declines in their populations like the other winged insects that have antennae. Termites are a very integral part of the food chain. And we just had a visitor show up here by my foot. It's a lizard. He's about to enjoy this little feast. I think he's getting into position here. Kind of hard to watch. He's heading for the mound. Here he goes. At any rate, folks, what happens... He's feasting right now. What happens when we have a situation? Wow, look at that. The whole thing went dead. Their communications are amazing, aren't they? As soon as he came by, they stopped coming out. They couldn't even see him. They have an amazing communication system, don't they, folks? We have to go underground in a sense, folks. We have to avoid the microwave exposure. And we have to treat what our girls have in their bodies, their precious eggs that they were born with, as the hope for the future. These girls that we've been given by God to raise are the carriers of the eggs. They're born with a finite number of eggs. Microwave emissions are an assault on the female reproductive organs, folks. That's why Apple has put the antenna at the very bottom of the iPad so it rests right in direct proximity to the young girls developing reproductive organs. Looks like our lizard friend's coming back again for another feast. Kind of like symbolic of the predators of the global elite, wouldn't you say? With their serpent tongues and their insatiable appetite to eat the unsuspecting and destroy and kill. No, yeah, this is just a lizard, folks. He's just doing what God made him to do. Kind of an interesting time here, isn't it? In the meantime, the escape hatch has really calmed down there. Everybody's kind of frozen solid in their tracks. Apple Computer Company sold its first computer for $666.66 back in the 70s, 1976. So when Elton John was singing about Philadelphia Freedom, which is really a song about homosexuality, not the United States Constitution or its bicentennial, Apple Computer was celebrating their own accomplishment, the first production personal computing device available for sale for the general public, and they priced it at $666.66. Their Apple logo is an apple with a bite out of it. There's also many references to the story of the Garden of Eden in the Bible in their advertising with their first products. Apple is a satanic company. Apple is run by Luciferians. And Apple Computer Company has given rise to many wicked, evil inventions. And they are famous for creating what is I like to refer as a cult-like following, an undying allegiance, and a blindness to the dangers of their products. Apple Computer Company has designed the iPad to be a weapon, folks. Now, I know that the fact that this is a weapon because I've studied what the iPad is capable of delivering in terms of power and frequency and the type of antenna it utilizes. It utilizes a patented slot antenna which concentrates the RF signal and beams it right through the girl's tummy, right into her ovaries. Now, if you look at Apple's Cupertino headquarters, they have landscape architecture plans on the City of Cupertino's website. They're public record, folks. If you look at those photographs, which I have broken down and explained in thorough detail on the FULLERTONinformer.com, just search Apple 666 Artemis in a search engine and you'll come up with the article that I've done. It talks about and clearly shows the landscape architecture plans as an expression of objective, folks. You can see clear slides right out of a biology textbook in those landscape architecture plans, and it's all about female fertility. It's all about the human egg, and it's all about the electrocution of a fertilized egg. You can see various plans and methodologies laid out in symbolism in Apple's corporate landscape architecture plans for their Cupertino headquarters. You can see a section, a cross-section of what appears to be a human egg with the nucleus, with the rough endoplasmic reticulum intact, and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum missing. Military studies have demonstrated that subthermal microwave power levels, in other words, the really low power Wi-Fi iPad frequency power levels at 2.45 gigahertz has been shown to affect morphological changes in the smooth endoplasmic reticulum of cells. I'm not making this up, folks. Now, if we know that a particular part of the cell is affected by low power, non-thermal microwave emissions at the same frequency that an iPad is using, and it just so happens that we have a cross-section of a human egg in the landscape architecture plans missing the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, then it is clear to me that the landscape architecture plans, as an expression of objective, are telling us and proudly stating that the microwave emissions destroy the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. And guess what that function is in a human egg, folks? You know when one sperm hits the egg, out of the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands that are trying to get to it and hit it almost at the same time, in a billionth of a second, there's a reaction that takes place called a Zoner reaction, folks. And it hardens the egg so only one sperm gets in. Do you know what part of the egg runs that reaction, folks? The smooth endoplasmic reticulum. And so in Apple's corporate headquarters landscape architecture plans, there are slides that show that that part of the cell is missing. There are also clearly replicas in the landscape architecture plans of the human egg, showing the meiotic spindle and the primary follicle and all of these cellular parts to an egg. It's unbelievable. The landscape architecture plans have an obsession with the female fertility, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we know that Apple is a satanic company. That's a fact, because nobody would ever price their flagship first product at $666.66. I've been alive for 51 years, folks, and I have never, ever, ever in my life seen something for sale for that price. Have you? No, of course not. So how do we know that they made a deal with the devil? Well, it's pretty obvious. Look where they're at. Look at the schools. The schools have deployed iPads in the laps of kindergartners in all the elementary schools. Now, if this was such an important thing for children to have computers, don't you think that they would probably want to put them in the high schools first for the older students? No. What they've done is they've deployed them first in the kindergarten. The little kids, the smallest and the most vulnerable and the thinnest skinned, growing body, developing children are the first to get the weapons. Not the high schools, folks. The high schools were the last groups of students to go wireless. Does that make any sense to you, folks? Well, yes. If it's a sterilization agenda, of course it makes perfect sense, folks. Because that's what this is really all about. You see, there's an agenda, folks, to reduce the population. And it's got many angles to it. Vaccinations, food supply control, weather modification, birth control, euthanasia, promoting homosexuality and abortion. All of these things reduce the population. But nothing is as effective as clandestine sterilization through microwave bombardment of populations. Another offshoot of Apple Computer Company is a computer company called Artemis Technologies. This company was founded by Steve Perlman, who was a chief Apple scientist. Their logo is an inverted uterus. Now, Artemis Technologies makes wireless access points and microcell antenna technology. And their logo is an inverted uterus, symbolic of turning reproductive function on its head. Now, if that's not a big enough coincidence, Artemis is also the goddess of fertility. So why do we have an offshoot of Apple naming his company Artemis Technologies after the goddess of fertility and using a corporate logo which is an inverted uterus? Because, once again, folks, it is architecture as expression of objective. What they're doing is they're putting it out there for Lucifer, their boss. That is a sign of allegiance. And in 1984, that's called hidden in plain view. So what we have to do, folks, is we have to avoid all of these microwave exposures from our children. The closer the microwave transmission is to the vital organs, the more damaging it is. We're blanketed in these emissions, but the real damage comes when these devices are held in direct proximity to our bodies. Our children are the target of this agenda right now. The older people are being culled and killed through the allopathic medical system, through the medications and the pharmaceutical agents that are being administered to these people, and of course the vaccinations. For the middle-aged people, they're being destroyed through flicker rate manipulation, sleep deprivation, LED television and blue light at night, and alcohol and GMO foods, and all of the indulgences that the average middle-aged person finds themselves addicted to that is destroying their health, including prescription medication and booze, like I said. But the children are directly under attack right now. The next thing that's coming, folks, is a new version of Wi-Fi. Right now, current Wi-Fi technologies utilize 2.4 gigahertz, which is the frequency at which the maximum dielectric loss of water begins. They've chosen a frequency that makes the water molecules start to vibrate to run all unlicensed transmission for home wireless devices and public Wi-Fi systems. Why did they do that, folks, when we're 70% water? Well, because it's a weapon. And why did they choose that particular frequency to not require a license? Because they want to make sure that frequency is proliferated. Now, guess what else they're about to do? The FCC back in 2013 opened up the E-band of the spectrum, which is the millimeter wave band for unlicensed frequencies, meaning the next generation of home wireless systems will be broadcasting on the millimeter wave spectrum at 60 gigahertz, folks. That frequency just so happens to be the one at which the oxygen molecules begin to absorb the energy from the radio frequency emissions. So they've chosen the current Wi-Fi system to mess up the water molecules, the exact frequency at which the maximum dielectric loss of water begins, 2.4 gigahertz. The next generation of wireless and home systems is going to be called WiGig, 60 gigahertz Wi-Fi. And 60 gigahertz is the exact frequency at which the oxygen molecules begin to absorb the radio frequency energy. Why is this important, folks? For two reasons. Number one, it's intentional. It's a kill grid. This is a eugenics agenda. This is a population reduction agenda. But number two is it gives them a tremendous weapon, folks. And Tom Wheeler said himself that there are going to be all kinds of unintended outcomes with the deployment of 5G and the millimeter wave spectrum being opened up. And none the least of which will be a slow death for society and all plant and animal life. You see, folks, 60 gigahertz affects the oxygen molecules. It affects the electron properties of the paired electrons in the diatomic oxygen. It affects their spin properties, folks. You don't mess with that because your hemoglobin is a magnetic complex compound in your blood that binds oxygen. When you affect to the slightest extent the magnetic properties of what God has created to be an incredibly perfect system of oxygen transferring to the hemoglobin, and at the same time, virtually at the same time, your blood is releasing carbon dioxide and water vapor into your lungs in that transfer. You cannot mess with that process, folks, but at the molecular level, that's exactly what these microwaves are designed to do. So they will be able to induce all kinds of chronic health problems. And what they will do, once they set that up, is they will blame these invisible emissions, ailments that manifest mysteriously as a disease X that the World Health Organization and the CDC is now starting to talk about. They're talking about this new disease they don't understand the cause of. Folks, they're going to induce illness through electromagnetic exposure. And they are going to force this electromagnetic exposure on all of us. And their solution will be to blame the symptoms on a newly discovered illness or virus or pathogen. And they will come out with a forced vaccination and mandate it. Now, why is this so dangerous? Because they can put, and they are already doing this, putting nanotechnology and nanocompounds in the vaccines and delivering them into our bloodstreams. And once we enter these microwave fields, there are frequency activation patents in existence where they can actually turn on and turn off certain genes and certain nanomachines in the vaccines in our bodies. We must protect our families. The solution is to completely reduce or eliminate all of your home wireless microwave exposure. It is a must. You must get rid of all of your Wi-Fi systems in your home and hardwire your entire home. Minimize the use of your cell phone unless it's absolutely necessary. And find a way to keep these signals out of your house. Aluminum screens block the microwave signals. So do the mylar films on your low E windows. So does chicken wire and metallic substances, but it needs to be grounded. So you got to be careful how you do this. The older homes with lath and plaster walls really block the signals really well, because there's a metal screen behind the wall that the plaster is applied to. A metal roof is great, but the problem is if you have something in your house, it's going to be bouncing up and down off the roof. Another thing that the 60 gigahertz microwave systems, the millimeter wave systems do, is they destroy your body's ability to produce vitamin D. Vitamin D is a necessity for life, for bone building, for all kinds of biological reactions in your body that are necessary to sustain life. You get vitamin D through your eyes, folks, in your exposure to the sun. There is an agenda to deprive everybody of vitamin D. It is the geoengineering that is not taking place today. We are in Southern California under a normal blue sky, and there's nothing in the sky today blocking the sun, and that's why I'm out in it. But there's a reason that they want you deprived of vitamin D, because when you are deprived of vitamin D, what happens is you develop all kinds of chronic metabolic disorders, not limited to cancer. So you're more susceptible to whatever they want to dose you with or expose you to or kill you with. Contact lenses, sunglasses, glasses, car windshields, dual pane glass, all block the vitamin D going into your eye, the UV going into your eyes that produces vitamin D. You need to completely get rid of your sunglasses immediately. You need to stop using UV blocking contacts and UV blocking glasses, and you need to spend at least an hour a day outside in the sun getting sun through your eyes while you still can. When they spray the sky with these metallic nanocompounds, that blocks the sunlight. That blocks the ultraviolet light that you need in your body to survive. You can't live without UV exposure. UVA and UVB, don't believe what they say, how horrible it is for you. It's just the opposite, folks. You can't drink gin and tonics every night and eat hamburgers and lay out at the beach with a Bain de Soleil and baby oil on your skin. You will get skin cancer. But you will not get skin cancer, folks, if you eat a balanced diet and you experience moderate amount of sunlight exposure on your skin and through your eyes. That is a requirement for survival, folks. That is a fact. Another thing that these 60 gigahertz emissions do to the human body is they affect the nervous system in the skin. They destroy the body's ability to produce vitamin D in the skin by affecting the melanin production in the skin. Folks, I don't want to keep going on this, but what I do have to tell you is, like those bugs, you must protect your body, your family, your children. You must take the necessary steps. You must. We're running out of time, folks. The stuff is coming in everywhere. They're putting it in everywhere. And the only way you can stop this is to protect yourself. Like those termites that go underground to have their families, we must protect the reproductive organs of our children. This is Joe Imbriano coming to you from Fullerton, California, folks. A beautiful sunny afternoon, enjoying the beauty of God's creation. And may we all go in Jesus' name.